Welcome to Inspire Me with Jay, a podcast discussing meditation, the near-death experience, spiritually inspirational and transformative experiences. Welcome to Inspire Me with Jay. I'm trying a different host. If StreamYard hasn't been very good quality, I'm going to see if this one holds up a little better. Kind of a test one to try stream. According to ChatGPT, this one actually doesn't compress it as much, and the video quality should be a little smoother, so I'm kind of hoping that holds out. So I thought maybe what I'd talk about is the gift economy. And you've ever heard the phrase, the best things in life are free? And that's so true, is that it comes down to it, everything that we value the most is generally free. You know, it's free, but it's priceless. You know, like sitting by the stream and watching the water, watching the bird fly by, or the love you have for your children or your pets. Those things are free. And remember that that is free too. That all we have to do is embrace Christ, and we're embraced. You have the faith, which is embrace, and then through grace, love is showered to us. But even though it's free to us, so the gift is priceless, and it's of an eternal quality. And look at other things too, besides just the gospel. You know, you can look at like things like rehab programs. You have very expensive rehab programs, some that cost thousands of dollars, fancy and elaborate, and they're like going to, elaborate resorts. But often the ones that have the best, like AANA, which are choice. So there's a quality to freeness that often makes it the best in life. And, there's a scripture in the Bible that says, buy the truth not. So we're to give out truth freely to people. We're to give out things that really matter freely. And this is the principle of the kingdom that I heard many years ago. The principle of the world is in selling. The principle of the kingdom is giving and receiving. And that sort of goes along with the gift economy, where basically everything is gifted to you, but you contribute and gift back to others. It's that giving and receiving. And that this is the highest order in terms of the kingdom. This is part of where I think the spiritual awakening is likely to ultimately is to move away from the buying and selling and move to a giving and receiving, to a gift economy in that sense. And you can see things like that with open source, because I love open source. The browser or the editing software that I use is called Cut, and it's an open source video editor. And it's really great because they're not always trying to sell you on everything. It's just a pretty high quality video thing that people put together because they help other people. And I've always kind of wondered that when you walk at a Christian bookstore, some of the musicians and things like that, they're charging for all of the things in the store. And I know obviously in this world you have to make a living, and probably for many years to come, the buying and selling model will continue, but that ultimately we would move more in the direction of giving and receiving. But I've always wondered, why isn't there like the mechanism to make it more of a giving and receiving, more of a donation kind of thing? And same with music, because I went to a Christian music concert decades ago. Actually, it's more like probably 30 years ago. We went to see Carmen in Las Vegas, and it was totally free. The only thing they did is they passed around the plate, and you could make a donation if you wanted to. And that was like a ministry for him, was that he just gave it away and just relied on donations. So it's sort of like trusting God to bring in what you need. And it kind of always made me think, well, why don't all of the musicians, all of the ones that seek to do this as a blessing to others, they follow that model? And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, I know that you're probably not going to make as much money, You may not have a mansion, have fancy cars, or own jet plane, doing the giving and receiving, though that isn't always true. Somehow televangelists found a way to do it by giving and receiving, but another thing. But just to trust God and see where it goes and let people to donate as they feel led to do so. And I can remember I went to this creation back in 2010. It was put on Am, and I have issues with some aspects of their perspective, but that's beside the point. We went to this conference, and out in the foyer was a bunch of books, and they were selling them. And I thought, and we were meeting in a church. And I thought, oh, you're directly selling inside a church building. That kind of sounds like something in the Gospels. Didn't Christ kick over some tables because of that, making it into a place of merchandise, a place of buying and selling right in the house of God? I don't know. It kind of gave me a funny feeling to see all these books out there that they were selling. If you're going to put book foyer, why don't you just put like a little sticker on with suggested donation and put a donation box there? People can give, but they're not strictly obligated to. So it's not just a straight transactional thing that's going on in the church, 'Cause I just felt that kind of bothersome. I mean, I kind of also felt it bothersome when we went to the Creation Museum. They didn't have the Ark at that. We had to pay to go to this conference, which, you know, that's a question in itself. And luckily, we got a free pass to the Creation Museum. But normally, they were. This was 15 years ago. It was $21.95 or something. And okay, well, if this is like why is it being run a business? Why is this being run like Disneyland or something? And there was elements that was like regular museums, and they had a planetarium, things like that. But then they also like a talking Methuselah, so it had kind of an amusement park feel to it to some extent. And they had some animals in the background, actual lives, like you could do camel rides and things like that. So it's like it had kind of a amusement parks feel to it. And okay, well, if this is a ministry, a genuine ministry that you believe in, why isn't it just donation based? Why isn't it giving and receiving? What about a family that can $21.95, whatever it is per person now? It's probably more than that. It seems problematic to me. It seemed like it was very much in the order of a business, and that I just kind of found troubling too. And I've seen other examples too. I can remember I was in a Baptist church, and they were going to hire a pastor, and they brought in this expert that was going to tell you how you can attract a new pastor. And of course, they were talking about, well, you should offer benefits, and you should offer a higher pay, and you can offer this and that, and do this. And it's like, my gosh, what are we doing here? Are we bringing in a pastor who's going to be ministering, who has a calling from God, or are we hiring the CEO of the church business? And it's troubling too. And you see things like this in the church. It's just so consumeristic. I find it very troubling. There's other things too that I've seen or heard about in churches. Like some of those big mega churches, with the televangelists. In order to be a member, you have to agree to tithe, which, tithing is a good thing. Giving 10% of your income to the church, to God's work, like a requirement to be a member there. So it's like essentially you're buying your way into the member, saying, I will pay such and such tithe. And that just didn't sit right with me. And I can remember another too from a Southern Baptist church that was just like kind of shocking. Um, there was a woman who needed pastoral counseling, and this was a guest pastor that came to this church that was speaking. And he looked her up on the rolls and he saw, oh, she hasn't been giving her tithe. I'm not going to meet with you. You haven't been faithfully tithing. So he just, you know, I mean, I was just like floored at that one. I couldn't meet with her because she hadn't tithed. Like because she wasn't, I mean, it's sort of like because you're not your cable bill, the cable's being cut. Only this time, because you're not paying your church bill, the church service is being cut to you. The services like pastoral care are not for you because you haven't been paying your tithe. Gosh, that just was mind blowing. Kind of money-centered, consumeristic, worldly, so many of the churches and ministries have become. And I think we need to get to more of that model of giving and receiving. And this will be, I think, ultimately unfolding in the spiritual awakening that's going forward. That a lot of people are starting to rise up. And, maybe they have to do some selling. Like if you have a book on Amazon, they're a business. Sometimes you go to distribute your book through them or whatever, and you have to sell it. But finding ways to make your stuff accessible to people, finding ways where you can bless people, and then in return, they have the ability to bless you. You life, so I will bless your life, and I will give you money so that you can bless other people's lives. Because when they donate to you, then you get the ability to go forward and bless others. But it's done in a voluntary sense rather than just a transactional consumerist sense, which is a higher order, type of living. And I'm not saying that you know consumer selling things is evil. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there's a higher ordered way of living, of giving and receiving. The gift economy is a higher order than the consumeristic way of living. And I think as we go forward, this is what we should be doing. And there is a place for things like market, and I understand that. Because a free market does offer choice, and it gives you options, which is good. Because even if you're choosing a church, it's not a monetary transaction when you join a church. Hopefully, but you can choose the kind of that fits you better. For some people, they may go to a Catholic church. It's wonderful. Others church that suits them, or a Pentecostal or LDS, or you find the church that fits where you are, and maybe God will call you to a specific church, and that's totally good. But you sort of have a free market of churches in that sense, and free markets give you option and choice, and sometimes when you have competition, it breeds excellence because we're trying to attract new people to it in a monetary thing. We want to offer something that we think is of value, that's a blessing. So we will create the most excellent, better than maybe others would have, so that we can bless you even more. So there is the free market principle, which is a good thing, you know. And I mean, I think ultimately for me, I want to be able to give to people, to serve people, to make a difference in people's lives. And I want to be able to offer things free. And if I can work more within a donation type system, or like where you freely give in some way. There might be some things that I have to sell or that whatever, but try to offer free things, try to offer value. And if I'm blessed, that's great. And then I bless more people. And when you bless me, you can also bless those that are in my family and things like that, But, I think that was the whole principle of giving and receiving is the highest ordered principle beyond the transactional business model. And ultimately, when we get there in terms of technology, we'll have more of a gift economy. Like when you get into Star Trek, ability to replicate things, and you have the ability to have everything automated, and you have AI that can do all these things for you, and the technology like we're using to, you know, get things for free a lot of times, like, finding a free platform. So ultimately, as that rises, we start to move in more of the Star Trek direction. And money as we understand it becomes something different. Maybe we have a credit system so people don't, you know, overspend and take everything. I go to the store and, I take all the bananas, something. You might have to put limits in terms of like, customer gets number of bananas or use such and just to prevent someone from taking it all. And you even kind of see that in the grocery store now. Like sometimes when they have a sale, limit your purchase to a certain amount, and they do that so that everybody has the ability to enjoy the sale to some extent. So everybody doesn't just come and buy all the Diet Pepsi, and then nobody else gets to enjoy the sale. So, there might be something like that goes on. But to live out of a heart of giving, beautiful thing. And that's all I wanted to share. But thanks for joining me, and we'll see how this live stream went. Have you ever wanted to learn to meditate? Check out my book, Meditation for Everyone: How to Quickly Have a More Peaceful, Mindful, and Fulfilled Life, and support this channel. With Meditation for Everyone, you will learn to quickly and easily meditate, relieve stress and anxiety, alleviate depression, and have more joy, peace, and relaxation. What you will learn: mindfulness, the art of stillness, step by step on how to meditate, strategies for overcoming challenges to meditation, and much more. D. Mason said this is a nice meditation book, even for those already meditating. I agree with the statements that it will help to have a more peaceful, mindful, and fulfilled life. 4.6 star rating, available on Amazon.